So, hello together. Does everybody hear me? Okay, Drago. Then I will start the talk. First of all, to switch to the PowerPoint. First of all, thank you to our sponsors of this conference. I think it's IT Point and ScriptRunner. And to be precise, we are on the CloudEight conference. Some facts about me. I'm technical fellow at TINM in Zurich. I'm also Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. I'm as well Microsoft Regional Director for Switzerland. I'm also Legal Serious Play certificated facilitator. I'm LinkedIn Learning Trainer, and I organize also in Germany the Azure Meetup Munich. As TNM, we search still cloud engineers, and we are cloud agnostic, so everybody is free, and we are happy to get new engineers. Especially, we need Microsoft Azure Solution engineers. So if you want to join us, feel free and send an email to Christian, that's me, at Christian WAHA at ti8m.ch. So my slides are now in German, but you can get it both. The complete slide deck is in 2 languages. So I provide them to Drago later, and then he can send it to you all. First of all, we discuss how we can get public, we can give you a feeling for public cloud and security. And the first step means, what means security? So security is freedom for silence against potential harm. That means security can also be understood as being a dual concept, since it encompasses both a state of being, and it means to the end how things are done are secure. And beneficiaries, so technical reference of security may be of one person or social groups or objects or institutions or ecosystems or any other entity or phenomenon which can be vulnerable to unwanted changes. And that means security. And that brings us to the next point, which means what means safety. So safety or protection is any measure taken to guard a thing against damage, so that we can avoid damage against outside forces. And protection can be provided to physical objects, including organisms or systems or everything, but there can also be a protection against virtual things like data. That brings us to my next point, which is the security lines in the cloud. So how we define defense lines in the public cloud. First of all, we have a physical safety. So we have access controls, we have perimeter controls, we have security in the buildings, we have security in the server environments, and all that, all the big cloud providers provide us this security. And to bring it to a next level, they have something like a building zones which means they have zone redundancies, they have regional redundancies. So in Switzerland, you have the Swiss North and the Switzerland West region redundancy. For Azure region, for the Azure region in Switzerland, at the moment you have no zone redundancy in Switzerland, but I think on the end of this year you get the zone redundancy in Switzerland North, because Microsoft will extend the data center in Zurich to more than one building. Then you can also have the zone redundancy, which means if one building is not available, the second building can help you to get a more deeper redundancy. And all over you have geo redundancy, which means that you have all of this over 60 data center regions Microsoft provides, or Google has similar values, and AWS is also in this range. They have not that much data center regions and data centers, but they have almost the same amounts of servers. But for different purposes, they have different structures in that. Usually you have there a 2 million kilometers intra data center fiber network at the Microsoft level, which means that all data traffic which is inside these data centers is really fast. So you see they provide at the moment 70 plus terabyte per second in the backbone network. And as a friend of mine who makes this data center networking structure said, we are always measuring not how much bandwidth we have, we measure how much latency we have. So if the latency is increasing, we start to build up more data fiber lines between the data centers. Especially the biggest regions in Europe are like something like Dublin or Amsterdam, or in the US there are the data centers in the California and in Colorado, which are really powerful. If on the map it's really difficult to see, but there's a data center in Brazil, and there's a data center in South Africa, and there are data centers in Australia. So you have a worldwide data center network. On this map, there are not the data centers in the Middle East, but there are now new data centers there, and much more here in the north. The map is a little bit old, but there are edge and compute data centers on it. That's why I use this map and not the other one. We have a second security line, which means technical safety. And this we achieve with some technical components and processes, which means we have a rule management and the cost management. As well, we have a configuration. So we do their update management, scripts, automation, and configuration. We have a monitoring, which is also very necessary to provide a security in the cloud. So you have a monitoring about the app, about the infrastructure, about the network. You make a log analysis and you make a diagnosis of all the data which are running through the cloud or your application or your infrastructure in the cloud. To avoid data problems, you also do something like a backup and a recovery system. And you will do some security like firewalls and policies and security rules or port security. All this stuff you do in your security management and your attack defense. And the cloud gives you the opportunity and the flexibility to build more than one hybrid environment, and you can also have the opportunity to provide more than one test environment. And so you can arrange or create security stages where you can provide more and more secure data. So this is an iterative process, and you have the opportunity with cloud services to build this much better than on your on-premise services. And the next part of the technical safety is something like the defense centers of the providers. They save, they respond, and they monitor all this data or these attacks. So the Cyber Defense Operations Center has some experts and safety measurements to avoid breaches in their cloud services. Microsoft and as I know as well, AWS invests per year almost $1 billion to save and to have more risk management on these services. So you're really safe on their side. There are some time they had some informations for some marketing reasons. So usually current on-premise data centers and on-premise operations find a breach of their security mostly after 138 days. Microsoft said, and also AWS, they have different values, but it's all between 8 and 12 minutes until they have or found a security breach. And after this, all technical measurement services, we have a line of defense, which means we have some contracting laws, certification, and audits, which gave us a special security, which maybe are a soft security, but they gave us as providers the security that Microsoft and AWS or Google follow their policies and rules. So Microsoft is checked by Deloitte, and Amazon is checked by Ernst & Young, and Google is also checked by Ernst & Young. I know EY has, after the Wirecard scandal, small reputation problems, but usually these audits run quite well. I think Amazon is also checked by KPMG for some reasons. It's not only that Microsoft only use Deloitte, they have some different audits with the German TÜV and whatever. So, and usually they provide this global certifications like ISO 27001 and 27018 and 017 and 2023/01, which the cloud provider has. And later in this presentation, I will come to the 5 phases how we have to work to achieve a secure cloud service. And yeah, short information about the problems with EU model clauses or GDPR or the Cloud Act. Especially the Cloud Act means how many requests are there for some access of the US government to data from Switzerland. And at the moment, or last year, between January and June, there was a total number of requests of 255. And you see there's 46 or something, about 47%, there is no data to send them. And then there's no content data, is 40%, and the rest was rejected because it was not allowed to send them. Because the Cloud Act does not mean that the US government can access directly the data. It means that it also has to inform the local government as well. And there is a justice who decide yes or no. These are all the certifications. Mostly the big three can provide you. In my opinion, and as I know, Microsoft has mostly all of them, and some of the other competitors are not completely certificated with all that stuff. Sometimes we have some problems with FINMA and with some financial industry regulatory government entities, which are not always happy with all the certificates because they need more. And so at the moment we are on the best way with Microsoft. So, and there's the last line of defense, and this is the most cruel one. That's the customer and its applications. And first of all, the customer has some adjustments to do, like governance, the company, also the board of directors is important to live this governance and this new business ethics. You have the rule set and the administration. You have some guidelines. You have some Vorschriften in German, or you have some people to get them in some gremiums and to bring them on a way to establish a meta layer, which gives you the possibility all this stuff is done. When you do that, you achieve a mostly secure environment. But that's not a one-time show. That means all this stuff has to be done in a circle way. So that's a life cycle. You have the applications architecture, you have a security concept, you have a zero trust architecture, you have cloud components, you have cloud security, you have application security, and you have data security. And all this is running in a circle, and you have to achieve or to adjust everything all the time. And all this together gives you a bunch of security which allows you to put them together and makes your application safe. But this is the first step. You have now all this framework around. But now you have to think about how you can move your data to the cloud. First of all, you have to build up a phase one, which means build up basics. So you have to set up a governance, you have to create security guidelines, you have to establish a secure data transfer. You have to establish data analytics to ensure that all or only allowed data can be stored in the cloud. You have to extend your contracting with Microsoft or with AWS or with Google to meet your or your company's needs. You have to establish a bandwidth to provide a secure and a fast data transfer. Especially if you start with Office 365 or cloud application and move much of your workload to the cloud, the biggest bottleneck is often the connection to the cloud data center then, which means that your internet connection may be quite good, but you need a direct connection to the data center. So I would recommend something like express route or direct VPNs to the data center. Also, you have to establish and develop a secure and a safe data transfer process. You have to establish a monitoring process to ensure only allowed data can be stored. You have to adjust your AD sync. You have to establish an airbag process. You have to establish your backup strategy, and you have, and that's one of the big points, you have to establish a cost management and a cost alerting, which means that you have a huge camel case in front of you before you can move the first data to the cloud. And we recommend that you should only start with public data. So that's data everybody can find on your website or whatever, but that's the easiest part of the data you can, if that gets lost or has a security breach, that's not a big problem. You can give them to everybody because everybody can have it from the website. So first of all, you have there in the phase 2 a manual governance process to avoid wrong data. After that, you will establish areas for users to store their data. And if that's working, you can create an automatical process to avoid wrong tag data in the cloud, which means also you can add some AI-based processes to avoid data leaks or something more. You have a test phase to check if the automatical detection is valid. So you have maybe a SharePoint, or you have data which you want to provide in SharePoint online, or the same process works with emails. You can push the data, and an automatical trained AI process in the backend, so something like Logic apps or Power Apps, can check all the data you move to the cloud and check after you give the AI the guidelines you want to achieve in the cloud. So you have some secure data and you want that the AI doesn't allow that, you have to train it for sure. And then you have to monitor the data transfer and to monitor the bandwidth and latency to move public data to the cloud, which means not to move all other data to the cloud in the first step. And that's one of the big points. You have to check that nothing which is not allowed to be there is there. And all these monitoring processes have to be in the phase 2 and phase 1. Which means if you come to the point and move internal data, most of the monitoring and the checks are done in the phase 2 and phase 1. But you have also the problem that you have then make legal checks and additional contracting with the Microsoft if you start with internal data there. Maybe you did this contracting, this extended contracting in phase 1, but mostly we find out that most of these problems come up later, and so you have to adjust your contracting. As well, you have to start an audit process by external auditors to move internal data to the cloud, and they can check if your process is valid and how high is the risk with this data. So that's the point why we only allow internal data in the phase 3. And in phase 4, which is one of the crucial phases, you start to move confidential data to cloud. So you adjust your manual governance process, you add some automatical processes to avoid wrong tag data in the cloud. Especially you put some stuff on edge computing, which means that you do the AI process not only on the cloud backend. No, you want to start that on your client device. So the client device does some AI detection if the labeling and the tagging is fine. And if you did that, you must establish a data encryption for your confidential or sensitive data. You have to do some security certifications, and you see mostly all of them are the same. The cloud providers do for their systems. And I did there a nice checklist. So you see, I did a deep dive for the phase one and for every phase. What you need there, you have to build up a SaaS governance. You have a living organizational governance on the point of setup governance. And you have checking for the data right labeling and tagging. You have to enhance your contracts with the Microsoft. All these points are necessary to be done to get a secure process of creating and transferring data to the cloud and live there the process. You see, there's also a DevOps process which has to be established in the phase one, which means you have automatically deployment strategy. You need to avoid direct access to critical infrastructure and. The same means the test management, and phase two you have also special automatical tagging. You have to train an AI process. And a friend of mine, and I would recommend some sessions of him. I don't know if he speaks today here, Alex Wachtel, he's AI MVP. We thought about such processes, and I think you have to split them up. You have to split them on edge computing side, and you have to run them on the cloud computing side. And all together, you get a secure environment when you establish all these processes. So I would recommend all this to do such a checklist. I think maybe the checklist is not fitting to all your needs, but if you can adjust them, it's not a dogma to use them like in this way, but it helps you to create a secure way to move your data in the cloud. I know that's only top level of all this work, but it's a small guidance how you can do that. As well, you have a risk assessment, which means on the end to bring all your really critical and crucial data to the cloud. And now I want to get some information of you. Do you have any questions how you can create a secure cloud environment? So feel free to ask. No questions? If there are no questions, I would say thank you for joining me and for having me. I will also give a point to our sponsor, IT Point and Script Runner. And if you're interested, you can contact me on my email address. And if you need a new job, we are happy to give you a new place. Thank you.